Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Game of Thrones episode review right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Game of Thrones episode review. And this is my review of Season 3, Episode 2, entitled Dark Wings, Dark Words. Now, general thoughts on this week's episode. Much better episode than last week. Hands down, much better episode than last week. I think that this episode contributed more to the plot as far as story progression. I feel like this episode answered a lot of questions that were already posed earlier in the series, but also introduced a lot of new interesting elements into the story that will further create more questions and leave things open for further speculation. So all those things I think contributed to a much better episode, and I would even go as far as to say that I think this episode should have been the premiere. I would go as far as to say take the most important 30 minutes from last week, attach it to this episode, and this should have been the premiere. And that's just what I think, for the reasons I just posed. So, things I want to talk about in this week's episode. Now, first and foremost, I'll admit, I noticed this is a more Stark-centric episode. Last week, the only Starks we saw were Robb and Sansa, and this week we got, the rest of the pack. But like I said, a lot of what they were doing, especially Bran and Arya, introduced things that further pushed the story. So what I'm talking about is Bran. First off, we find answers to questions, right? What was up with Bran's powers? What's been going on with Bran? We finally know what Bran is. We finally have a word for it. There's a term. He's a wark, apparently. Weird little term, but that's what he is. So this week's episode finally found out what Bran is. And we even got introduced to another character. Well, no, actually two other characters, but more specifically another wark. What was the boy's name? Georgian, I believe. Georgian Reed. Him and his sister. We got introduced to them. Two new characters. Now, still don't know what to make of the Reeds, and I don't know what role it is that they're going to play in the story. And even Georgian, I don't know if he's supposed to be a mentor to Bran or simply a companion. Not sure yet, but he does know more about working than Bran does, and I think that that's going to be the character that we get the majority of our exposition about working from. So once again, question was answered, something interesting was introduced, and now it's opening up for more speculation. Good job. Second, Arya ran into the Brotherhood. Now this was the scene where I was like, dude, this should have been in the premiere, because we heard about the Brotherhood all last season, and they've been building up to this for a while now. And so my thing is, when we finally see the Brotherhood, and then not only did we see the Brotherhood and get introduced to, I don't know if he's supposed to be the de facto leader or if he's one of the captains or something, but just the comment he made about what it was the Brotherhood was doing. He said the Lords of Westeros are destroying the countryside and we're trying to save it. So that gives the impression that they're trying to do something good or something productive. We got this right out the gate, and I'm saying you built this up. You hinted to it all last season. Why was this not in the premiere? Why? If you're going to build up for something for a whole fucking season, then when the new season starts, don't you think you should lead with that? I'm just saying. So, once again, answer to a question, new interesting thing being introduced that further opens up for more speculation. I also thought I found that the fact that they caught the Hound, I thought that was funny. I'm also trying to figure out how did he get captured so easily. Well, who knows? Maybe people were killed in the process that we didn't hear about. And then, of course, now Arya's secret is kind of out among the Brotherhood, which I think is actually going to. I'm thinking that they'll be more inclined to want to keep Arya and her group with them now that they know her identity, whereas before they really didn't care. But we'll see what develops with that. All right, let's see. Sansa. Oh my God. Oh my God. This had to be probably the most interesting scene I've ever seen with Sansa. And to be honest, I'm not too sure if it was just the fact that it was Sansa, or if it was the fact that it was Marjorie, or if it was the fact that it was Marjorie's grandmother, who, for the record, is already one of my favorite characters. And I'm not sure if we'll ever see her again. But every second that actress was on screen, I loved that freaking scene. And man, I mean, okay, I was already intrigued enough as it was when they said that Loras wanted to talk with Sansa. And I'm like, what would Loras want? Why? Then you found out that Margie wanted to, she wanted to play host to Sansa. She was inviting Sansa to meet her and her grandmother. So I was like, what is going on here? And then the whole meeting was about them picking Sansa's brain to try and find out, who Joffrey really was. All in all, not to just like, I don't know. I don't know what you would call this. But that was probably my favorite scene in the whole episode. That scene. And I mean, and then I like what they did with Sansa. The fact that Sansa actually slipped up, and we saw it. Her whole I'm devoted to my dear Joffrey bullshit. We finally saw that chip in the fucking facade, man, because she let it slip when she brought up Ned. You saw it, and you saw her emotional reaction. She showed her colors. And then it wasn't until Marjorie and her grandmother was like, nah, it's cool. Speak your mind. Now, do I think that Sansa did the wrong thing being honest with them? Yes, because you don't know those people. You can't trust those people. So just being blatantly honest as she was, I mean, as would be expected of her, I thought was too soon. I think that if we had spent more time with Marjorie and Sansa together to where they kind of developed that type of relationship where Sansa would open up to Marjorie, I thought that would have been a little bit more, what's the term I'm looking for? Not realistic, but it would have been less reckless. It would have made Sansa look like she was, in total control of the whole situation. But then again, on the flip side of that, I think that's what they were going for, was the fact that no, this was an instance where you saw Sansa actually get emotional. You saw the wall coming down, and I think we were supposed to see that. Because she had been putting up the front for so long that this is when it was like, I mean, we saw in last season when, she just kind of broke down in front of Shae, but this was different. This wasn't just a whole like emotional breakdown. This was just her finally being able to express out in the open, in public, well, not public, but to other people, how she felt about what happened to Ned. So anyway, like I said, hands down, that was probably my favorite scene in the whole episode. That was great. And then of course Marjorie's scene with Joffrey, man, look, I still don't know, or I'm surprised. The more and more I see of Marjorie, I'm surprised by her. But man, let me tell you, when I say this girl knows what she's doing, she knows what she's doing, man. That scene with her and Joffrey, you could tell catering to his ego. And I found that, and this is why I know Marjorie is a fucking mastermind at this shit. Remember her scenes with Renly in season 2, right? How did she speak to Renly? How did she treat Renly? Straight up, to the point, no BS, like they were friends, you know, but honest. And she said her mind. You see what I'm saying? She was to the point with Renly, because that's the type of relationship they had. But with Joffrey, she's playing the game with him. She's catering to his ego, telling him what he wants to hear, making him feel good, making him happy. She knows what she's doing, and he's playing into her hands so well. Oh man, she's smart, man. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. She knows. And I'll also admit, once again, when I'm talking about scenes I could have done without, Joffrey's conversation with Cersei, that was one of the scenes could have done without, because we've been here already. We know we're at the point. Nothing Cersei says is going to provoke Joffrey. He does not budge to her anymore. She's lost her pull over him. We saw that, right? And then, remember what I said about Cersei being jealous of Marjorie because that's her replacement and all that jazz? We saw that coming out. It's like, man, Cersei, like, could you be any more transparent? You know? Could you be any more transparent? I mean, dude, I think ever since, what's her daughter's name? I forget her daughter's name, but I think ever since Tyrion shipped off his niece last season, Cersei just flipped. Honestly, we saw she went batshit crazy during Blackwater, and I mean now, dude, she's not even playing it. She's not playing it quiet. She's not playing it coy. She's wearing her emotions on her sleeves. People can see past her, and I mean, damn, Cersei, get it together. Jesus, and you know what? And the funny thing is, I think Marjorie's picking up on that. I think Marjorie knows. You see what I'm saying? I think she's picking up on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if she intentionally did things just to provoke Cersei in the future, just to antagonize her. I wouldn't be surprised if Marjorie did that, but I think she's too smart and quite honestly, I don't even think she cares enough to bother. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't know what's going on either. I don't think she's that out of the loop. Speaking of antagonizing, I gotta talk about Jaime. I gotta bring him up. Okay. Now, I knew that Jaime was, I knew that Jaime, you know, liked to talk shit. I knew that, you know. We've seen that. We knew that about his personality. He likes to talk shit. He likes to taunt. And that's mainly because, you know, he can always back it up. You know, Jaime likes to talk because he can walk the walk, which kind of motivates him to want to talk even more. But, I could not for the life of me figure out why Jaime made it his mission to antagonize Brienne. Because here's the thing, Jaime did know that it wasn't so much that he was her captive, but, and it wasn't even that she was his escort, but I'm pretty sure Jaime, did he know, she's your protection, dude. She's taking you home, and she's in charge of protecting you until you get there. Why would you antagonize her? For what? Other than shits and giggles. For what? Now, it wasn't until, Jaime, you know, that last scene where he actually cut himself free. and fought Brienne. It wasn't until then that I realized, it's like, well, maybe Jaime, since he's supposed to be exchanged for Sansa, maybe Jaime figures, well, screw this, I'll escape and get home on my own so that I can get back and we can keep the Starks. Maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know. But that whole, both those scenes, it's like, dude, why are you going to antagonize your protection? Or maybe it's because he knew he could do it because Brienne couldn't let anything happen to him. You know, that sense that, oh, I can do whatever the fuck I want because I know she ain't gonna hurt me. She needs me alive. Maybe that's what it was. In which case, either way, it all boils down to Jaime just being an asshole. You know. And to be, you know what though, I did like the fact that Jaime, you know, cut himself loose this episode. I like that happened sooner rather than later, because the whole tied up captive, taunting, you know, taunting your captor, you know, being all tied up, walking and shit. Did we not get this with Jon and Ingrid in last season? It's the same damn thing. It's just a role reversal, but the same thing. So I'm glad that they kind of cut that, you know, that we only got like 2 episodes of that. I'm glad. Well, no, more like 3 episodes really. But I'm glad they cut that as soon as they did, because I think any longer would have just been what's the term I'm looking for? Not cliche. Oh, overdone. Repetitive. That's what I was looking for. Repetitive. And since we're talking about Lannisters, that Tyrion Shae scene, I couldn't help but think that was an original scene just for the show. Because the thing is, that scene just vexed me, because Shae goes to Tyrion to have a serious conversation, and he's trying to hold the serious conversation, but she's letting all this, like, minor, all of Tyrion's past shit come into the issue, and it all had to pertain to his relationship with other women, with Roz, and then this bullshit idea that he might be interested in Sansa, when you're sitting up here trying to have a serious conversation with the man and he's trying to have one back. That don't make no fucking sense. That doesn't make any sense. And I thought that was like, honestly, with all the scenes in this episode, that was the one that stuck out as one of these things is not like the other. So that didn't make sense in the context of the conversation itself, and then that scene didn't make sense in the context of the rest of the episode. Yeah, and in all honesty, if Shae was going to be talking to people about whether or not Littlefinger could be trusted, you would think that she would talk to Varys. Or Varys and Tyrion at the same time. But anyway, I don't know. It was just one of those things where it's like we kind of knew what Tyrion was gonna say before the conversation even took place, and then the fact that Shae didn't even take it seriously, that just, I don't know, that just bugged me. Like, that just bugged me. Speaking of things that we found answers to, man, one of the things I've been always wondering, we actually got a little bit of back history with Mance Rayder, man. One of the reasons why Mance was able to, you know, become king north of the wall anyway. He unified the fucking Wildlings. Now, I don't know if they mentioned that before, but that was something I was always curious about. It's like, how the hell does a rogue crow become king of the Wildlings? Like, what is it about him that would have brought that whole thing about? And then we found out he united them. Okay, yeah, that seems like good enough reason. That makes sense. I thought that was good. And I think, Theon. Shit, I don't know what the hell is going on with Theon. Don't know who his captives are. Don't know why they have him. I know he's gonna escape, but I don't know what the hell is going on with Theon. Don't really care, because at this point I don't even know what role Theon's supposed to play in the story anymore. I mean, we know he can't go back to Rob's company, and we know his sister's trying to rescue him, but does that mean he's going to be welcomed back with open arms once he returns to Pike? I don't think so. So I don't know what Theon's supposed to do. And that's just because I don't know what the Greyjoys are supposed to be doing in the grand scheme of things. So, but the last thing I did want to talk about was Catelyn. Her scene with her conversation with Talisa. That was definitely one of the best scenes in this episode, in my opinion. My only real criticism about that scene, however, is its placement. And this is what I mean. I would have much rather preferred that we got that scene sooner than we did. I thought, or I think, that it would have really... I think it would have been really impactful if we would have gotten that scene last season. And this is what I mean. You all will recall my comments about Cat letting Jaime go in last season, right? How I thought it was stupid, it didn't make any sense, so on and so forth. And it wasn't until, I think, after the season wrapped, I found out that in the books, the reason why Catelyn releases Jaime is because she thinks that Bran and Rickon are dead, right? And okay, right? Like, that's what I heard. That was her reasoning in the books, which made so much more sense, right? So in this episode, not only do Catelyn and Robb finally find out what happened in Winterfell, and they don't know whether or not Bran and Rickon are still alive, and then we find out about Kat's dad passing away, right? Well, what I'm saying is this: if this scene, them finding out about Bran and Rickon, them finding out about Catelyn's dad, and then Catelyn's conversation with Talisa, if this would have happened in season 2, after she met Talisa, but before Robb and Talisa got married, right? Before she released Jaime, if we would have gotten those scenes then once she released Jaime, and then Robb's reaction to what Catelyn did, and then of course Catelyn and her attitude towards Talisa and why she didn't agree with Robb's marriage and everything that goes along with that, I think all of that would have made much more sense, and the impact would have been greater, because not like we would have gotten a mutual understanding about why this was going on, and it just would have made so much more sense in regards to, if you're trying to set this thing up with creating this rift between Robb and Catelyn, then if all of that would have happened before releasing Jaime, I think that would have created the necessary tension so that rift was like, that makes sense. Yeah, they're not, their relationship is might not never get back to normal after that. That's all I'm saying. So like I said, it was fucking great. I just think it would have been more beneficiary if it was in last season. But anywho, so yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap up my thoughts on this week's episode. Yeah. Is there anything else? I don't think so. I think that's it. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. So, I don't really need to talk about Night's Watch. Yeah. I'm done. Alright, so with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, letting you guys know my Vikings episode review will be up tomorrow. And until next time, peace.